Welcome to the One Spark at a Time with me, Rabbi Adam Miller. A Jewish mystical legend tells that during creation, something broke and shattered, scattering sparks of divine holiness around the world. It is our responsibility to do acts of tikkun olam, repairing the world around us. Each time we do a good deed, we are gathering one more of those sparks, making our world a little more whole and holy. Today, we're going to meet an individual doing this sacred work of repairing the world one spark at a time. Our guest today is Jessica Stanfield, the Executive Director for the Guardian Ad Litem Foundation of the 20th Judicial Circuit, formerly known as Voices for Kids of Southwest Florida. Jessica is a graduate of Skidmore College and has worked at the Southwest Florida Symphony before her tenure at the GAL Foundation. Jessica, welcome to One Spark.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a joy to be here with you. Tell us, you worked at the Symphony before and now at the Guardian Ad Litem Foundation. What started your interest in the nonprofit world?
Sure. So I kind of stumbled into nonprofit work. I was a psych and social work double major in college, and I always thought I would go on to a JD MSW program or something where I could help underprivileged populations, and graduated with a lot of undergrad loans, and those programs are expensive. And so I said, okay, well, that's not going to work to start. And I started working at a doctor's office and wasn't loving it. And a job opened up at a museum in upstate New York. And with your salary came a health insurance package. And so I thought that's what made you an adult. And I was very excited to have my own health insurance. So I segued there and started their administrative work and kind of worked my way up to handling a lot of their events and development, and really found a love of wrapping myself around a mission, sharing that mission, and fundraising to help that mission meet its goals. So fast forward, I moved to Southwest Florida. My family is here, my husband and my daughter. And so I was like, well, I'm missing nonprofit work. I'm a recovering orchestra geek, and the development job at the Southwest Florida Symphony was open. So I started there, but really missed that tie to human services. So while I loved my time at the Symphony and the work that we accomplished there, I was missing feeling like I was making a difference for those people that needed me the most. And that's what landed me at Guardian Ad Litem, and fostered my love of really doing this work.
You spoke about the mission of these organizations and feeling like you were working towards something with a greater purpose. What is it in particular about the Guardian Ad Litem Foundation that drew you in?
Well, I think, when we're talking about kids that need us and a vulnerable population that has to do with youth, there are so many things. We were just talking about taking things for granted. I had a beautiful childhood full of happy memories, and my mom and dad in my home. I went to the same school and grew up in a lovely community and had a network of people around me. And when you realize that kids right outside of your door don't have that, in me, it sparked this fire to help them as best as I could. And so I think, being able to help a child that is at their lowest point to pivot and turn their life around and watch them flourish and plant those seeds that they really need to succeed throughout their whole life, that's why I put my feet on the ground every morning.
Wow. Well, tell us about the work of the foundation, and specifically, what is it that they hope to accomplish and how are they getting there?
Sure. So we work hand in hand with the Guardian Ad Litem program. So there's Guardian Ad Litem or CASA. You may know if you're not from Florida. Both of those are really interchangeable. And that is a state program, and there's a program office within every judicial circuit. So down here, we're the 20th Circuit. We serve Lee, Hendry, Glades, Charlotte, and Collier counties. And the program is a state agency. It's state funded. And the foundation really works to supplement that program. So we help to fundraise and, get grants to employ additional child advocate managers who are assigned to volunteers that are assigned to cases. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But we supplement staffing for their offices. We help to increase recruitment efforts to be able to get new volunteers that are so desperately needed for the children in our communities. And then my favorite part of what we do, long and short of it, is we really strive to create normalcy for a child when their life is anything but normal. And we do this a couple of different ways, but the primary focus is our Children's Needs Program. So that funds a lot of different things. The requests really run the gamut from emergency clothing. A child might be pulled from their home and they go to their foster placement with what they've got on their back and what they could fit in a bag in the 10 minutes before they had to go. So that might mean they don't have a pair of shoes. They don't have season appropriate clothing. We will fund that. We'll fund a bed if they can go to a safe placement with grandma, but grandma's on a fixed income and can't afford that bed for them. We'll buy a bed and make sure that that is, checking the box on their case so they can go. We send kids to summer camp and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and allow them to go on field trips and participate in sports and all these other things that they may not be able to access, but that at the root of that interaction and that experience helps them to just feel like a kid when their life is anything but that normal, deserved, vital feeling.
Wow, that is remarkable work, and it really touches the heart to hear that you're trying to provide a sense of normalcy for these children. So it's a complicated system. You have the state bringing in the people who are the volunteers, or GALs as they're often called, and then you're supporting their work, but also providing for the children. How exactly does a child enter into this system?
Sure. So there's a hotline in the state of Florida that if you suspect there's a situation of abuse, there's a call that goes in, and that can be done by anybody. So, the state and all of us have really, during this pandemic, have said, we're all eyes and ears on these kids right now, because certainly teachers and daycare workers and all of these people that they would typically and normally see all the time are mandated reporters, and they make those calls very often. But when kids stopped going to the regular classroom, the community really became those eyes and those ears. And interestingly, right now, abuse calls are down. And so someone may say, oh, well, that's good. That doesn't necessarily equate to there being less abuse. That just means that the calls are down. And the scary thing for us, when we look at the calls that the hotline is receiving right now, the abuse is far more egregious. We're seeing lots more examples of sexual abuse or really violent physical abuse. This time has certainly not been easy on families, and that's really trickling down to the kids at home. But the call goes in, it's investigated, that goes through the process through the Department of Children and Families. And then should there be a reason for the child to be pulled from the home for their safety, they are pulled and they enter the dependency court system. So they essentially become under the jurisdiction and the vision of the state. And so that looks different for every case. They may go to a foster placement. There may be a family member that, has a home study, has shown that their house is appropriate and safe, and they can go there. And they really, that changes all the time. Some children bounce from foster placement to foster placement to foster placement. There are family relatives that their lives change and they move, or they, their situation changes and they can no longer keep the children. Again, just this period of non-normalcy and this, this influx of changes that they experience. So they go to a new placement, they're under, the dependency court system, and through that process, a guardian ad litem can be appointed. So here in Florida, they're court appointed, so it's an order from the judge where he or she says, these children really need a guardian ad litem. And then the process starts there on the program side. So they work to get someone assigned to the case and the whole onboarding process that goes with that to make sure that those children have their desperately needed advocate.
I wonder, without a guardian, who is the voice for the child in these situations to advocate on their behalf?
So that's the sad reality, that if a guardian is not appointed to the case, they really don't have that one constant voice. When we look at a child's process through the dependency court system, as I've said, they can change foster placements. Their caseworker from DCF may change. They may see different attorneys in the room. They may end up at different schools because of where they're placed, in foster care. The guardian ad litem advocate is really there to be from inception to the end of the case when they reach permanency, whether that's reunification with the parents that they were pulled from, or adoption. And we have had countless cases where these children have been in flux in so many other factors, and the one constant that they could count on was the fact that Miss Sally was going to see them at least once a month. She was going to be there in court with them, and she was going to show up for them and be their voice when nobody else was. When you sit in the courtroom, DCF is there and they really represent the family. The parents each have their own attorneys, and then there's the child. And so when we're on a case, their advocate is there. We have a voice of the child attorney that is there that goes, to help represent the child and the guardian. And really, I mean, above all else, our team is working for that child. We don't go to, be on mom's side or dad's side. We are advocating for the best interest of what that child needs.
It's got to be such a sense of comfort just to see a familiar face that's there and is representing them and is supporting them. How long are kids on average in the system?
That really varies. Some cases can reach permanency in a few months. Other cases can take years before they reach permanency. There's been new legislation here in the state of Florida that is coined. You can look it up. It's under, if you Google "a year is a long time in the life of a child," this really worked to make sure that within a year, that case was reaching some kind of permanency, that we were getting these plans in place, that families were working on what they needed to work on if reunification, was something that was available. And if not, we were working on finding some other kind of permanency plan for this child so that they weren't lingering. Because when you think about it, a year, when you're 5 or 6, I mean, that's an incredible amount of time. That's, I personally, I'm like, you're robbed of so much in a year or more of your childhood. So that was great work that was done to really help us get these cases moving along.
A question's come in from the audience wanting to go a little deeper on this. If there's not a guardian who's assigned for a child, is there an attorney who's assigned on their behalf?
So I have only been exposed to cases where there is a guardian in our office that, when we can go to court and things like that. I know that there are resources put in place, but typically cases that really need that voice, the judge is going to push to have an appointment, on our behalf. So as we work really hard in our communities to increase our representation, it's our hope and the goal of the program and one of the missions of the foundation to reach 100% permanency. Because if we're reaching, 60%, 65%, that's great. 65% of the kids outside of our doors are having that voice, but that still means that there's 35 or 40% that need us. And a child that has been a victim of abuse and neglect, they need us more than anything. So that's something we're really, really pushing towards here locally, and the program, as a whole across the country.
Sure. And helping children is something we all want to do. You mentioned you can't reach all the children. There's a shortage of volunteers. Beyond just the percentages, put it into numbers so that we can really appreciate this. Here in Southwest Florida, roughly how many kids need an advocate, how many have one, and what kind of gap are we talking about?
Yeah, so using round numbers, in Southwest Florida, so the 5 counties that I listed, there's roughly 2,300 children that are under court supervision in the dependency court system, and we're assigned to roughly 60% of those cases. So again, using round numbers, there's still approximately 1,000 children within our 5 counties that are not yet represented. And that looks a little, we, like I said, we stay on a case until permanency. So we have volunteers that take one case because that's what their time allows. And they, they work that case and they're dedicated to that child. We have other people that have the time and the energy and the heart, and they have 5 or 6 cases. We have a lot of people that have retired down here and they were like, this is my job now. I don't have a 40-hour-a-week commitment, and I'm going to do this. So we're blessed with some of the greatest volunteers that Southwest Florida has to offer. And we're always looking to expand our family for sure.
I'm sure. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Tell us, what kinds of other resources does the foundation provide for the GALs and for the children to help create that sense of normalcy that you were referring to?
Sure. So as far as things that we can provide to the Guardian Ad Litems, we have money that we, receive in grants and foundations and private donations that allows them to continue their education. So if there's a case that involves sexual abuse, you need to have a specific certification to be able to be assigned to that case. And we will send guardians to take care of that certification, at no cost to them. Every year, CASA and GAL, they do a big conference. They're doing virtual this year, so the reach will be much wider, I think, and we'll be able to send guardians to that so they can participate in those panel discussions and continuing education sessions, just so they can really be at the forefront of the education and things that are coming out for them. We also, I can't say it enough, we love our volunteers and we're happy to celebrate them. So we are happy to present appreciation events where I call them Guardian Ad Litem Therapy, the ones that I've been to, because interestingly, it starts off as an event that we just want them to come together and we want to love on them and tell them how great they are and the impact they're making. And it ends up being that guardians kind of sit together and they're like, I have this case where this is happening and I don't know what to do about this. And the next thing you know, this person had a case just like that. And they were like, well, let me tell you what I did and I'm here to help you. And so, I mean, truly, I call it a family because you end up having these people that are like, here's my cell phone number. Let me know how that judicial hearing goes. You know, if you need any other help, please call me. It's truly a beautiful network. You know, people that it's on their hearts enough to get involved at that level to help children have beautiful hearts within them. And so it's an amazing group of people. So we're happy to celebrate them and support them in those ways. And then for the children, like I said, you know, we have this big, robust, 6-figure-a-year program that really goes to help them feel normal. I say all the time, I have a 2-year-old. And if I gave her a snow globe and told her to run around our backyard, you know, snow would be flying everywhere and all the different figurines would be going crazy. And I say that the foundation kind of exists to like put our hands on the snow globe and let it settle. And that looks dramatically different. You know, like I said, that could be a bed for a child that needs a safe place to sleep. It could be a birthday celebration for a child that has never, ever blown candles out on a birthday cake. It could be camp. It can be swimming lessons. It can be tutoring because they just switched schools and their first foster placement school taught algebra and then geometry, but the school that they just moved to because their foster placement changed teaches it in the other direction and they're lost, you know, and that's not covered. I mean, that's not something that you can reach out to anybody and say, hey, can you help us? So we'll pay for tutoring. We just had a bunch of kids participate in a virtual music camp. They picked up instruments for the first time in their whole life. And now they're sitting there saying, I can't wait to get back to school because I want to play the violin all the time. I mean, just the highest praise I get is when a guardian or a child tells me, I got to feel like a kid and thank you for that. Because normally I go to school and I'm the foster kid or I'm the one that I'm at a new school and I didn't have the uniform because my old school didn't, you know, require uniforms. And they tell us, I just got to feel normal. I didn't feel different. And that's the highest praise we could ask for.
Wow. The stories must be just so emotional and touching the heart so deeply. Can you share with us a couple of the stories from these
absolutely.
JALs and the children whose lives they're a part of?
Absolutely. We could easily write a book. And it's truly this work and the stories that keep me going. So 2 of my favorites that tend to be, all of our stories are heartwarming and heart-wrenching because you have to think about what has gotten the child there. So I don't like to say that they're the greatest stories, but they show what we do. So we have a subset of our children's needs program called Beds for Kids. And as I said, in the state of Florida, a child can seek safe placement with a family member, but they have to have their own bed to sleep on. And we have lots of family down here, grandparents that are more than happy to take a child in during the duration of their case, but they may be on a fixed income, they may be retired, whatever the case may be. And so it is a fiscal hardship to go and purchase a bed and get that child set up. They may have the room and the resources month to month and the heart, but that piece may be what holds it up. And that piece will stop it from happening. It'll stop that placement. So we get requests all the time, even through the pandemic, when we haven't been able to deliver in person. We've been forced, like many other organizations, to pivot and figure out ways to make this happen, because if it doesn't, it will impact the case significantly. So through this program, we get a request saying so-and-so needs a bed. And this is cribs. This is twin beds. This is bunk beds if there's more than one child. This can sometimes be hospital beds if there's been a medical situation and a child is being discharged from the hospital and needs something like that. Again, these requests really run the gamut, and we really investigate each child's situation to make sure they're getting exactly what they need. But this one particular case, we got a request, a 6-year-old little girl that needed a twin bed to go and seek safe placement at grandma's. And so when we get the request, our team calls the relative caregiver and says, okay, we got your request, we've got the bed ordered, and we go one step further and we make sure that we deliver it personally and we personally assemble it. And when we're gone, the packaging and all of that goes with us, so grandma isn't left with a heap of trash. The bed is made. They're left with a stuffed animal or a comfort item and an age-appropriate book as well. So really, it's like when we leave, they're ready to enter their bed to go to sleep. So this was a 6-year-old case. We call, and one of the things that we check when we call is, do they have a favorite character or a favorite color or a favorite sport? Because if they do, this is their bed. This stays with them forever. So if they reunify, if they are adopted elsewhere, the bed goes with them. And so we like to get sheets or blankets or things that help them feel, like, this is mine, this is what I like.
Make it very personal.
Exactly. So grandma said, well, she likes Frozen. What 6-year-old little girl doesn't like Frozen? So we're like, okay. So our team dispatches. It's a Saturday morning. We deliver beds at least twice a month. So we go, the bed is set, everything's ready to go, and the child's invited in to see their bed. And this is always such a fun interaction, because it's like, some of these kids have been sleeping in bathtubs with siblings. Some of them have been on a piece of cardboard in their kitchen. Some of them have never known what it is to have something that is their own to sleep in. Again, something that we all take for granted, likely every single day. So in this particular case, the girl comes in, and usually there's jumping on the bed. There's like, oh my gosh, my bed. She was very quiet, and she started to cry. And the team's like, okay, she didn't like Frozen, or like, we messed, like, what happened? And so, we checked in, we're like, what's going on? Are you okay? And come to find out, this just turned 6-year-old little girl was a victim of sexual abuse from a parent. And so she turns to grandma and she says, Grandma, this is going to be a safe place for me to dream again. And I still get like emotional thinking about it. And so, when you define that program, when you say, yeah, you give a bed to a kid, sure, when you phrase it like that, it's a bed. When you look at a situation where that child has a safe place to dream, and at 6 years old can start to dream again, that's significant. So those are some of my very favorite interactions that we have with kids. The other one, we have a Happier Birthdays program. So the Guardian gets a $25 gift card to either plan a birthday celebration, or in these times, send it to the child to say, hey, go get yourself a nice birthday present. So in this instance, the little boy was turning 8, loved Spider-Man. So the Guardian goes, she gets a Spider-Man toy, wraps it in, Spider-Man paper, and gets him a card and a cake. And they go to a local park, and they're going to celebrate his birthday. And so he opens the gift, and he's like, cool. And she's like, that's for you. It's a new toy for you. And he's like, oh, okay, thank you. And he starts folding up the paper, the tissue paper, and handing it back to her. And she's like, well, no, buddy. I mean, that's all part of the gift. Like, you can keep that, or we can throw it away. And she's like, but let's have your cake. And he's like, okay. And so she puts the candles in the cake and starts to light the candles. And this little boy panicked. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, it's going to ruin the cake. What are you doing? And she's like, no, we're going to sing happy birthday and blow out the candles. And he's like, what are you talking about? He had never been in formalized education and had never celebrated his birthday or been around a birthday celebration to know that when it's your birthday, you light candles, you sing happy birthday, and you blow them out. So at 8, because of the foundation, that was his first opportunity to know that happens and to feel the joy of being celebrated. And so again, when you look at $25 and a birthday cake, okay, that's cool. But when you look at the fact that as he moves through years, as he celebrates more birthdays, and if he goes on to have, children of his own, when they're blowing out those birthday candles and when they're feeling joy because of him, I guarantee you he's going to think back to that Guardian and be so thankful for that interaction. So I could go on all day, but some really beautiful things that come out of some tragic situations for sure.
Absolutely, Jessica. Those are such powerful stories. I really hope that you have on this list of supplies that you provide for the GALs, boxes of tissues for these
sure.
kinds, and for your volunteers for these moments.
Sure.
To be there when that young girl made that comment about being able to dream again, or when the boy has his first birthday, those are special moments that you're giving to them. I'm sure that many in our audience are right now thinking, what can I do to be a part of this? So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about, what does it take to become a Guardian Ad Litem? Does one need a legal background or to have been an attorney to be a part of this?
Not at all. So we do have some that have a legal background and will volunteer for us as an attorney ad litem and help with some of that work, but absolutely not a requirement. We have guardian ad litems that come from all different backgrounds. They were stay-at-home moms, they were teachers, I mean, really it runs the gamut. And truly all you need is the heart for the job. And the time for the job. You know, the biggest commitment is, again, like we've talked about, you are the constant in that child's life. So during pre-COVID normal times, it comes with at least a once a month visit to the child. Right now, many of our visits are taking place on FaceTime or Skype or something virtual, just to make sure that everybody's staying safe and that, you know, the children are staying safe and we're protecting our guardians. But that's the time commitment. And we let you know when their court cases are, and you're never alone. You know, that's the beauty of it. So when you have a desire to be a guardian, you can go to our website, which is voicesforkids.org, and there's a contact box there that you can say, you know, I have an interest and what county you reside in. One of our recruiters will reach out to you and let you know when the next info session is. So that's again, being offered virtually right now, where we'll tell you a bit more about the program. We'll tell you a little bit more about what, you know, taking a case really looks like. Again, a little bit bigger explanation into what the commitment is and what it looks like. And then you'll start training. And so really everything that you need to know, soup to nuts, from, you know, state statute and how the program works and all the ins and outs of what that experience is going to look like, we train you on. We have trainers that take care of all of that. The training is really great, even virtually. Again, I keep saying pivot, but we've been forced to pivot and bring that training online. So our sessions, they're meeting once a week. They're doing some online modules at their own, you know, pace and their own time. And we're still continuing to bring in, you know, partner agencies and different members of staff. So one time you'll see me and I'll tell you a bit more about the foundation and those needs that you can come to us for. And by the end, you're ready to start like looking in on court and just kind of being a fly on the wall. Again, we've found ways to do that virtually. So you're never ever going to step into court. That seems to be the scariest part for a lot of volunteers. You're never going to step in and be like, okay, you've never seen it, here you go. And again, you're not alone. You're going to have your child advocate manager who's going to be with you every step of the way. You're going to have your sort of guardian class that, again, will be your network of people that you'll likely stay in contact with. You'll have me and my team and the foundation. You'll have that attorney sitting next to you when you do go to court so that there is someone there for you. And again, you just have this whole beautiful family of people that are like-minded and mission-focused and have beautiful hearts just like yours. So no real big prerequisites, just the heart for the job, and we'll help equip you with everything else.
So a lot of training, a lot of support along the way. One of the questions that's come in is wanting to know, are there any risks to GALs or to being a volunteer, knowing that especially these children are coming from situations that have involved domestic abuse in some cases? What are the risks that are incurred by being a GAL?
Sure. So one of the comforting things is that we come onto the case after the child has reached a safe placement. So the guardians are never really going to that immediate, you know, where the pull happened or where the abuse happened necessarily. And again, you're not, I know I keep saying that, but you're not alone. We, you know, guardians are told if you're doing a home visit and you've got that feeling in your stomach that it's like, I don't like this, call the caregiver and let them know you have to reschedule. You know, there's a network around every child as well. So the Department of Children and Families has a caseworker that does home visits. You know, you can always reach out to your child advocate manager and say, I don't love the feeling I'm getting, you know, the vibe feels a little wrong. Can I see if I can go with them, or can you come with me? It's never going to be something that was like, well, you made a commitment to be there at 2 and you weren't there. We want our guardians, similarly, the exact reason why we're not doing visits in person right now. That's obviously what's best for the child, to be seen, you know, in person. Imagine a 13-year-old once a month saying, yeah, talk on the phone. Like, they're like, I don't want to talk on the phone. But that's exactly, you know, at the forefront of what we do. is protecting the most vulnerable in the services that we provide for children and protecting our guardians. We understand that this is a big ask for a volunteer position. And we want to do everything we can to equip you with the tools and the comfort to do it safely and happily. So certainly you have a pipeline of communication. And if there's ever anything that makes that, feeling in your stomach exist, you just reach out and we will work through it with you.
Well, for those, we've gotten other questions coming in. For those who want to support the work, but maybe are at a stage in life where they can't necessarily be a GAL, what are other ways that they can give to help support the work of the foundation?
Absolutely. So the foundation is driven entirely by fundraising, grants, and donations. So we host, when we're outside of a pandemic, a lot of fundraising events in all of the counties that we serve. So that looks a couple different ways for people that want to get involved. We're very active on our website and our social media to let you know what events are coming up. We do trivia nights, and we have a gala coming up in November that again is going to be virtual, so anybody can engage with us in that regard. There's information about that on our website. We do a big March Madness fundraiser when NCAA baseball or basketball takes place. We have lots of different offerings that if you want to come and support us as an event attendee, you can do that. With events, we also need volunteers, and that goes for not only fundraising events, but events that the foundation is running for children. So coming up in August in Lee County, we're doing a backpack drive. We're doing Back to School with the Blue. So we'll have members of law enforcement that originally this was going to be an in-person shopping event that they could help kids get ready for school. Of course, with guidelines, we've decided to put the kibosh on that idea for now, but they're going to do a drive-through event at CenturyLink Stadium where they'll drive through. They'll get a backpack full of supplies, a $100 gift card for uniforms or clothing, depending on what kind of school they attend, and a law enforcement officer that's going to wish them well and success as they enter the school year. But those types of opportunities, we always need hands on deck to help check people in and pass out backpacks and all of those things. So there's constantly opportunities within the organization to help with appeal letters, or if we're making calls, we're always looking for hands. Our team, from a foundation perspective, is small but mighty, and we like to use as much money as we possibly can to put people into the program. So the bulk of what we bring in from an administrative perspective goes to paying salaries for child advocate managers and those that are really on the front lines of helping to take care of those children and helping to support the volunteers. From an administrative perspective, it's really me. So I always welcome new friends in my office. And then, we are a not-for-profit organization driven entirely by support from the community. So donations are always, always, always welcome. We rely, all of those needs that I addressed are met by grants and individual donors. So if a story like what I told you, grips you and you want to make a donation, you can take pride in knowing that your support directly impacts children right outside of your door here in Southwest Florida.
Wonderful, thank you. You've touched a few times on how COVID-19 has impacted directly the work of the foundation, the efforts to raise funds, as well as the work of the Guardians. Questions come in wondering, from your perspective, how has COVID-19 impacted these children who are in these unstable situations?
Sure. So it's interesting. I've said a couple of times now in other venues that when COVID-19 hit, I find it funny that the last normal day we had of operations was Friday the 13th. But beside that point, when we left the office and said we were going to work remote, we were like, okay, they're saying like 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Like, that's okay. 2 weeks, we'll work on our laptops, whatever. And I remember being like, oh, this feels like abnormal. And then the time got pushed out. And then, like I said, one of our biggest fundraisers is a March Madness fundraiser, and that got canceled. And our gala got postponed. And another big fundraiser we hold in Charlotte County got canceled. And so from a foundation perspective, as the executive director, I started looking and going, oh my gosh, okay, this is a huge financial hit to us. This is a scary time for us. And I started feeling like, gosh, I just wish things were normal. I've said that no short of 100 times. And it clicked with me one day that what I was feeling is likely what every child we represent feels on a daily basis. I think about when we went home for remote work, and I'm not comparing because it's two very drastically different situations in severity, but when they're pulled from their home, when they change schools, when they move away from friends, when they have to go to a new doctor, I bet they find themselves constantly repeating, just as I have, I wish things would just be normal. I wish I could just go home. So if anything, I feel like I've gotten an even greater sense of clarity of how that feels to just constantly have your life in upheaval. From an operations perspective, the foundation is still alive and well. We're still taking requests. We've had to pivot how we've done that. So as I said, it's not so much a team going and delivering a bed. It's a lot of Amazon drop shipping things and making sure that caregiver, knows how to use the Allen wrench and kind of put some things together. Typically, gift card requests or clothing requests will send the funds to the Guardian Ad Litem. Now it's going directly to the caregiver, a lot of online shopping. So we're telling people, not to go to stores. We've expanded a lot of what we cover. We have, program guidelines that say what we will and will not fund. And the no's, to be honest, are usually because those needs can be met somewhere else. It may be a medical need that their Medicaid coverage or someone else can help them to fund. So because I don't really like to say no all that often. So those are usually things that we can find them other places, but we've expanded what we've done because we know that families are struggling. We know that children were forced to learn differently. So we've covered a lot of technology, a lot of Chromebooks, when kids had to turn them back into the schools or whatever the situation may be, but needed to continue to e-learn virtually or, wanted to use different, systems over the summer to prevent the summer slide, to keep them, where they needed to be for school. We did a big COVID-19 assistance relief program where if a family was struggling, we gave them a gift card to Walmart to fill their fridge. We usually don't cover food, but the stories we were hearing were heart-wrenching. And similarly, the pictures we received of, this is the first gallon of milk we've had in the house in a long time, thank you, made it all worthwhile to make sure that we could do that. Volunteers, as I said, are not seeing children in person right now, unless they receive a special circumstance, and they can do that if it's necessary to that child's case, which, as you can imagine, as I said, with the calls getting a little bit more violent and a little bit scarier, there are some cases that it's really important. And when they do that, of course, they're masking up and staying 6 feet apart and things like that. But all in all, I'm so proud of our team for being able to work as hard as we have during these times. It's like we didn't even miss a beat. Children are still being taken care of. Our guardians are doing a phenomenal job keeping in contact with kids. We've seen some really cool stories. We had a guardian who, again, teenage boys who wants to talk on the phone. She knew that they loved Chick-fil-A. And she was like, if I can find a way to get them Chick-fil-A, then I'll win. And so she said, I'm going to find a way, but you guys got to check in with me next week. And sure enough, she went to Chick-fil-A and ordered what they wanted, put it on the hood of her car, drove up to their placement's house, said, come out and get your food. She stayed in her car. They grabbed the Chick-fil-A off the hood of the car, and she was able to have a great conversation with them the next week. People have gotten super creative, and it's just so inspiring. It's the beauty that has come out of these tough times for sure.
Little Chick-fil-A magic to help connect to a team. Whatever it takes, I suppose. We had one question come in from someone wanting to know, what's the time commitment for those who are volunteering? So if someone does work part of the year, even someone who's perhaps a teacher and who works during the school year, but during the summer wants to continue to help children, are there ways for those people to be able to participate and help?
Sure. So those unique situations, I always say to talk to your recruiter and to the program staff, because they are very creative and have come up with creative solutions to that. I know that we have volunteers that do work a 9 to 5, and so they'll get creative with covering court. They'll make sure that their visits, take place on the weekends. They'll make it work with their schedule and still be able to fulfill all of the commitments that are required to be a guardian ad litem. So they have seen a lot of different cases of full-time, part-time residents, people that have, typical Monday through Friday jobs, and they have some great solutions to make sure that it works for everybody.
Great. One question came in from someone wanting to know, within the catchment area here, are there some children who have been separated? They're immigrant children separated from parents for one reason or another.
So I know that is becoming a bigger issue here. There's actually some community foundations that have provided funding to local legal aid societies and things like that, specifically for addressing those issues. I don't know case by case what the appointments have been, but I'm sure that if it's a case that's going through the dependency court system, and if a judge feels it's, you know, in the best interest of the child for an appointment, we are absolutely going to be there, you know, regardless of immigration status, you know, things like that. If it's covered under, you know, our jurisdiction and we're asked to be there, we are there.
You're there for the children.
Absolutely.
I want to let you know, on our Facebook, there's a message coming in of gratitude for the work that the foundation and the Guardian Ad Litems do, from the Vice President of the Citizens Foster Care Review Board, who also helps chair some of the hearings, showing appreciation for the work of the GALs and their voices being there to advocate on behalf of the children. It shows the power of this work to not only help provide normalcy in the short term for these children, but also advocate for them and their long-term destination and what's going to happen to them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. You know, as I said, we are blessed with some of the best in our community, and they act selflessly and they wear their hearts on their sleeves for these children, and their work is inspiring, and I feel humbled to be a small part of it. That's for sure.
Well, Jessica, this work is going to take a lot of energy and passion to remain hopeful day in and day out. For the positive stories you hear, I'm sure there are many other challenges that you observe. What gives you hope and keeps your energy going?
I mean, I think what we've been talking about right there, that there are people in our community, it's overwhelming, the number of people that even through a pandemic have stepped up and have said, you know what, I have the time, I have the heart, and I want to help. Or maybe they're a person that are like, I have the heart, but I don't have the time, but I want to donate to make sure your mission is strong. Our community has come alive during this time as far as volunteer support and donations go. And so they, you know, it's just inspiring for me. You know, I had a friend when I received this job, or when I started this job at Guardian, and they said, well, wouldn't it be nice if, you know, one day everybody just got their stuff together and child abuse didn't exist anymore? And I said, well, that would be the loveliest reason for me to collect unemployment. But however, I don't think that we're ever going to get there. And it's true. I mean, child abuse is a crisis all in its own. And as we've seen through this, stressful times show an increase. There's always going to be that, unfortunately, in the world and in our communities. And we like to sort of live in these bubbles where we're like, la, 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 you know, no, that doesn't happen here. And it does. And it happens here in huge numbers. And so for me, you know, what keeps me going and the hope that I have is the fact that I have a network of people around me that want to make a difference for these children, and that I have been blessed with the opportunity to do it myself, and that I every day can wake up and work hard and ask people for their support, financially or otherwise, to keep us going and to keep changing the lives of children. And I guarantee you, the impact and the seeds that we plant today will be astronomical as they grow older. And so again, if I can be a small part of turning their life around and making them feel normal and supported and heard and loved during this time where they don't feel that from very many other people, then I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and I'll be happy to do it.
Thank you, Jessica. We can hear the emotion in your voice and how deeply you care about this and the work that you're doing to help these children. One final question for you as we near the end of our conversation together. This path that you're on right now is helping make our world a little more whole and holy. What would you say to others as a way to help spark their work if they see things that need to be addressed, if they need that little push to get them out into the world to do good? What would you want to say to them?
Absolutely. I think that, you know, the world sometimes can be a scary, negative, overwhelming place. And so I think that if we don't wake up every day with a passion for something, it's going to be incredibly easy to get bogged down by that negativity. And I don't care who you are. I don't care where you live, how old you are. You have the power to change the world for the better. And I think sometimes, you know, when we say the statement, change the world, or if we're talking about child abuse, you know, that feels really big and that feels really scary. And in reality, it is. It's a big problem, and change the world is a big statement. And I think sometimes we have to be motivated by where we are and where we want to be, and not crippled by the distance between those two places. And so for me, yes, sometimes I put my head down on my pillow at night and I go, oh, we should have helped one more, or, oh, you know, there may have been this other need that went unfulfilled, or these children that don't yet have a gal. And so I have to wake up every day and I have to remember that it is an opportunity for me to make a difference and if I make a difference in one child's life that day, that puts them on a path to success, that puts them on a path to want to be a life changer. I can't tell you the number of kids that are older in the foster care system, 16, 17, 18, that go, I want to be a guardian one day. I want to give that back. And so if I can be a small part of that interaction and I can help create this network of world changers, and remember that one small change a day will just balloon into something big and beautiful, we're going to see a completely different world than what we're living in right now. And so I urge all of you, if it's work as a guardian, if it's work, you know, as a donor to us, if it's holding the door for someone at the store, picking up a piece of trash that someone else dropped, if you make one small change a day to better the world around us, we're going to be blown away by the impact.
That's beautiful. One changing the life of one child is repairing one of those little sparks, and each one of those makes our world better. One at a time, we will get there. Thank you, Jessica. That's been beautiful to hear your story and have you share your passionate pursuit of making our world a better place. As part of this experience, we like to share the reminder that COVID-19 has given us an awareness of our blessings as well as a heightened sensitivity to those who are in need around us. And it is clear from this conversation today, there are a lot of children who are in need around us. So Jessica, I'm going to give you another opportunity just to remind our listeners of the website if they want to go and find ways that they can work with your organization and truly impact the lives of children in Southwest Florida.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. So you can go to voicesforkids.org. And that will take you to a wealth of information, both about the Guardian Ad Litem program as well as the foundation. That's also going to be your hub to get involved should you want to do that. There's going to be, as I said, a contact us box that you can click. You can provide us with your information. If you have a question that you didn't get to ask while we chatted, please send it to me. I'll be happy to answer you. If you want to learn more about becoming a volunteer yourself, you can do that through that contact us box as well. And of course, like I said, we're really donation and support driven. So you can absolutely make a gift securely online or find ways to contact us in other ways to do that if you'd like to send a check or give over the phone. So no amount of support, whether it be time or treasure, is too small. And again, it all makes a great, great impact. So thank you. If you have interest in that, we look forward to talking to you.
Well, thank you for sharing those opportunities. Thank you for being my guest. And I want to thank all of those who are in our audience, watching and listening to One Spark at a Time with me, Rabbi Adam Miller. If you missed any part of this experience today or want to watch other episodes, the full video will be available soon through our Temple Shalom of Naples YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to One Spark at a Time podcast, available on your favorite podcast provider. As Gandhi taught, be the change you want to see in the world. As we part ways today, friends, may you be inspired to embrace that teaching, knowing that you too have the power to fix our broken world, one spark at a time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.